Can you tell me your name and age?
Sure. So my name is Veen Michelle Harding. I'm 22.
Can you tell me what you identify as and your pronouns?
Sure. I'm a transgender woman, lesbian. Um, I'm open to men, but pretty much lesbian. And yeah,
Okay. How long have you identified as a transgender woman?
I have been a transgender woman. I have been for, I think 3.5 years probably. Um, I had been doubting for probably 5 years, and like 2 of those years I was using they them pronouns, and yeah.
So, what moment did you realize? So were you non-binary?
Yeah, yeah, I
So,
was.
what moment did you realize, or what made you realize that you were actually a trans woman?
So the funny thing is, I realized I was not cis. Obviously, I was bisexual, so it opens you up to like experimenting more, um, and I wanted to wear girls' clothes, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm not cis, and I was in a relationship with a gay guy, and then we broke up, um, which was kind of freeing because I didn't have to then like be masculine. I didn't have to be masculine, so I could explore like femininity, which is something that I could have explored in that, but I felt like my masculinity was like what made me desired in that relationship, and so um, then I wanted to experiment with women's fashion, and I think the funny thing was I knew that I wanted to be a girl, but I didn't think I'd ever get there, and so I kind of did like a halfway thing and was like, this is, as long as I'm not like a boy, it's okay. Um, so I was using they them pronouns, but I still wanted to like transition, um, and get everything that was like stereotypically feminine. I just thought I was like too ugly, basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. What what was it like for you to, like, the very beginning moments of like you beginning to express yourself as as the as the not the gender that you were assigned
Hmm.
as?
Yeah. It was very cautious and like shameful, but there was, oh, it's so, there's so many feelings associated with that because like I would do homework in my sister's room because my room is really small at home and there's no space for a desk, so I'd do my homework in my sister's room. She was at college, and so I started like being interested in women's fashion. My sister's room is there, so I would like try on her clothes, and that was so exciting and so like there was so much joy, but then also like as soon as you put them on, you then see all like the flaws you have, and then the dysphoria comes in, and then you're like, oh, I don't really like myself, but I could if I work at it, you know. So it was like a double-edged sword. It was really fun and so exciting for like those little hidden moments, but then also there's like a lot of pain and like, oh dang, I don't really like myself. Yeah.
Okay. Um, where are you from?
I'm from Massachusetts, southern Massachusetts, close to Providence, Rhode Island. Yeah.
Um, did you identify as a transgender woman or non-binary while you were in Massachusetts?
At home, I have been in the closet until very recently. Um, so around my friends, obviously, I was out to my friends, and they were very like supportive of me, which is something that I absolutely needed. Like I wouldn't be here without my friends. And at home, it was the situation where like they know that something's happening, but we don't ask questions, and so, you know. And I was upfront with my mom, or I tried to be upfront with my mother, and it didn't go very well. So, yeah. And then very recently, I've come out to my parents, and that also went poorly. So, yeah.
Do you, so, has your relationship with your family changed since you have came out?
Yes and no, because at the moment, it's like it's being ignored again, and which is something that, you know, like my mom told me to my, not to my face, it was on the phone, but she was like, I'm gonna keep using this name and I'm gonna keep using these pronouns, and I'm just not really gonna talk about it. And I was like, okay. So, but it has definitely changed our relationship because there's an undercurrent of like, we don't like each other, basically. Um, so yeah, it's very awkward. I'm struggling with it a lot right now, because you know I rely on my family a lot, and I'm still probably relying on them. I have this program that I just applied to, and was fortunate enough to like get into, but I don't know if I have the money without like my parents' support. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of questions going on. Like I'm very uncertain of like my future right now.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things about like being trans is like having a support system, and people to be there for you.
Yeah.
Because I think it can be lonely a lot of the time.
Incredibly lonely. Even when you have a support system, it's still lonely, I think. And especially, you know, for me, I have a lot of like cis friends, um, and they're wonderful and they're so supportive, and I love them all very much. But it can get very lonely because I don't have too many people to talk to. Yeah. So it's very important. I think if you have a trans friend, like tell them you love them as much as you can because that's hard.
Can you go more like in depth about growing up in Massachusetts?
Sure. So initially, I was in a very loose environment. I went to a Montessori school, which is like, I don't know if you know what that is. It's like a kind of like it's kind of like hippie school, I guess.
Okay.
It's very free form in terms of your education. You kind of like the student chooses what to do. You call your teachers by their first name, and they'll like guide you, but you kind of get to focus on what you find interesting. Um, and that was very helpful in the beginning. Um, and then I moved to a public school. Lived in the same town my whole life, but I changed schools. I went to public school, but like a off-kilter public school where they taught like French and Latin. And then I kind of just followed in my brother's footsteps, um, and went to the same high school he did, which was the Catholic all-boys school, and that was very like damaging for me. Um, yeah, it's just such a constricting environment. Another like instance of like don't ask, don't tell. And I did find some community with like other queer kids. That's where my ex-boyfriend was from. He's from high school, and but you know once that relationship fell apart, I was kind of alienated from that group as well. So, yeah. it's
Okay.
it's been hard.
So you came out as gay before you came out as non-binary and trans.
Yeah.
What was coming out as gay like for you?
Um, it was very dramatic, to be honest. I remember like going to the park and just like lying on the grass because I was like I felt so like trapped and like so constricted. And my mom noticed that something was wrong, and so she talked to me, and then I told her I was bisexual. Um, and that went fine. That was fine. Um, but every other time I've had a talk with my mom about being queer, it's not gone well. So
I feel like everybody comes out as bisexual. So did I.
yeah.
Um, so what are the differences between the way people treat you as gay, non-binary, and a trans
Hmm.
woman?
Yeah. That's interesting. It's kind of, I didn't realize that, yeah, I've been treated all three ways. People at high school knew I was like queer before I did, which is, a lot of queer people say this. But yeah, people would come up to me and be like, I thought you were gay. And then I was like, oh no, I'm not, you know. And I did get bullied in like my freshman year for, I guess, for being like effeminate and for being like soft-spoken in a very like masculine environment. But then people realized I was good at sports. I was good at running, and so they stopped. I kind of like got the pass. Like they were like, okay, we'll stop bullying them. And I don't know, being like bisexual at my high school was okay because I wasn't, for a large majority of the time there, I wasn't dating, or I wasn't really looking to date anyone. So I just kind of went through quietly. Um, yeah, it was definitely the easiest. Being non-binary is very difficult. Um, I kind of came to the conclusion that it's kind of impossible, like today, to like be non-binary. Like people just don't understand it, and even people who do understand it will like always slip up, like, which is, it's okay, but you know, it was so hard. Like people would just ignore you constantly. Um, so that was difficult. And then being a trans woman, I found more support from people, but obviously with things like trans misogyny and like just transphobia in general, which you get as non-binary as well, but like I think trans women specifically, we take a lot of the brunt of transphobia, at least like in public smear campaigns. So that has been hard. Yeah, I would say that's the differences between the three.
Have you dealt with any transphobia, homophobia?
Everything that I have gotten is pretty casual, um, nothing extreme. I think I've been harassed more for like being a woman and being a trans woman. I've gotten catcalled and things like that. Homophobia happened in like high school. It doesn't really happen. Obviously, it doesn't happen here. Most people are queer, and I don't really go outside of the campus that much. But yeah, in high school, I got called a couple slurs and you know stuff like that. Like, oh, I don't want to catch AIDS or things like you know. Yeah, so definitely like Ringling has protected me from any of that. I'm curious to see what it's going to be like once I leave college and like go into the real world. Yeah.
Feel free to say no, but can you talk about some specific instances of transphobia that has happened to you?
It's just a lot of it is like people not knowing boundaries around like being trans and asking like invasive questions or like somehow finding out like my dead name and like mentioning it to me, and you know, it's the kind of stuff where like it's not, it's kind of like, it's like unconscious, or like, that's why I said it's casual, because it's not meant as an attack. Like, it's not entirely meant as an attack, but it definitely feels like that. Yeah. And then also like, you know, feeling excluded or things like that. Like, it's just very, very casual, very like unconscious forms of discrimination.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that people are like transphobic, but they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And you feel excluded, you said.
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes.
In what way?
Just in the like unconscious ways people refer to me, or like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm forgotten. But this could also just be me like being anxious. I'm not entirely sure, you know. I do have wonderful friends here and like people that I really, really love who are so supportive.
Yeah.
So.
I feel the same way. I feel excluded.
Yeah.
And I think it does have something to do with me being trans. So
Yeah.
you're not alone.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I feel a little nervous like talking about it, because I do have those people that are so supportive.
Yeah.
So I don't want to like discredit them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is also like an exclusion that I feel. So.
Yeah, that's your experience, and that's valid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have any of the laws or legislation about LGBTQ or trans people specifically, have they affected you?
Not right now. I'm not on HRT. And I'm not planning to stay in Florida, because I'm yeah, it's not looking good. I'm definitely very afraid. So like, I guess mentally and like psychologically, there's been an effect on me. It has, in a way, brought me closer to trans people on campus. Like, some people have been like, "How are you doing? Like, do you want to talk?" Which has been nice, because I've been able to connect with people that maybe would have like not connected with. But it's, I mean, obviously it's mostly been negative. It will be negative. So, yeah.
So you mentioned that you are not on HRT.
No.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I don't know. It's very difficult. It's the kind of thing where sometimes I forget that that's what I'm working towards, and like that's something that I can do. And when I do remember that, it's relieving, but it's also like sad, because I don't have it right now. Because right now I'm relying on like my clothing, I'm relying on my hair and makeup, and like everything is a social transition. There's no like physical change, and that can be very discouraging. Like, I'm 4 years into my transition, I feel pretty much the same as I did like 2 years ago. I hope it'll happen. I'm going to work very hard to make it happen. Yeah.
Okay. You say that you're working towards it. So what are the obstacles that are preventing you from getting on HRT?
Money, because my parents are not on board with it, so I'm gonna have to pay for it myself. Yeah, it's money, my parents, my family, and then also any legislation that is probably upcoming. Um, so it's gonna limit like where I can go for work. Um, yeah, those are probably the three biggest obstacles. And then also just like logistics. It's very confusing. It's a long process as well. Like you have to get, approval from so many people just to start HRT, and then you can still like get fucked over by your doctor because whatever reason, like, yeah, there's a lot of obstacles, like, for every trans person.
Yeah, I am on HRT, but there are still obstacles for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about your lesbianism.
Okay, so I don't know, that's very interesting because even when I was like in the gay boy like moment, well, not even, because when I was dating him, I was non-binary, but I felt, I was kind of pushed into like that
Right.
gender expression.
Yeah.
But even when I was there, I always was so attracted to like feminine aesthetics and just the feminine like women. I've never doubted that expression or attraction. I have doubted my attraction to men, but never my attraction to women. And one of the things that I think like being a lesbian has allowed me to do is like be more comfortable with my masculinity, because I don't consider myself butch, but like, I feel if I am to like express masculinity now, I don't feel like it cancels out me being a woman, because I've been like, I'm lesbian, so I can do that under like the rules, which is so fucked up, but like that's how I kind of got around it. I don't know, in my mind, that like, yeah.
So, have you ever dated a woman?
I'm actually like in 8th grade, but it didn't really count, I haven't done much romantically or sexually, just because, I don't know, I'm kind of an awkward person. I'm also really codependent and like uncomfortable with myself right now. So I don't know. I'm probably like, I'm open to it, but it would definitely have to be someone that I very much trust. Yeah. And there's been people that like I've tried pursuing and stuff, but yeah.
Okay. So as another trans person myself, I think I am attracted to women and other trans people, but my concern going into like a relationship with another trans person or a woman would be like the relationship dynamics. Like, I'm afraid that I would get put in like a gendered role in a relationship.
Yes.
Or
this is true.
Even sexually, I think. Does that concern you at all?
It does. That's actually a big concern, especially when like I'm considering like maybe I would like to date somebody. I'm always thinking about like, well, even though I like this person, I feel like if I date them, I'll be put in this role, which is not something that I'm comfortable with. So it stopped me a couple times from like pursuing people, or like, yeah. Yeah, I'll put it that way. especially with sex. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also romantically, there are a lot of people where I feel like even though there might be a connection, they like me for parts of me that I'm not comfortable with, and so I don't want to do that. Yeah.
So, do you think that being trans has made dating hard for you?
Yes, very, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, incredibly.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, every trans person I've talked to has mentioned that, like, that's one of the biggest things. And that, it's like we were saying earlier, like, it makes you lonely because I mean, you have access to it, but it's so much more difficult.
Hmm.
Yeah.
My biggest thing, I mean, because most of the people who are attracted to me are men. And, like, yeah, I'm attracted to men, but, like, there's a desire for these interactions with men, but I hate being objectified. And then sometimes a man is attracted to me and he has no idea that I'm trans. And then I kind of get
Okay.
I know. And then, like, I tell him, and it's like, I just realized that, ah, yeah, being trans has made everything so much harder for me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change much with the way that you look at all, in my experience.
Yeah. It's, well, I don't know. I was gonna say it's not fun, but it is. I can tell that, like, if I find the right person, it will be, you know,
Yeah.
like, to be trans and in a relationship like that is gonna be so healing if it
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk to me about you as an artist?
Yes, I can. So, this is something that Lorenzo was talking about, how, like, there's commercial art and then there's, like, I don't want to say personal art, but, like, I guess transgressive art. So my major here in college is illustration. That's mostly where I put my, like, commercial art, the art that I think is going to make money, basically. And I do like that art. It's fun to make. It excites me. But recently, and not recently actually, I've been making this art my whole life, but I guess I've considered it more as, like, something that I should keep doing and, like, is equally as important as my art that will make money, hopefully. um, and that's, like, my poetry, my music, and my fine arts work, I guess. Like my printmaking, and I've done, like, I did one painting for, like, a gallery. I don't know. And that participating in that gallery was so cool because I got to perform with my band, and I also, like, had my painting that I made I didn't make it for any class. It was just, like, just me. And that was really nice, and I was so excited and so inspired after I did that event. That's kind of what made me feel like, oh, this is something that I should keep doing. Yeah, and then my music, like, recently has been kind of a way that I can procrastinate on my thesis, but, like, still feel productive. And it's also, like, one of the places where I feel like I can talk about. I guess the separation is I feel like I can talk about being trans in the art that is not commercial.
So,
which seems obvious to me, but might not be obvious to other people.
yeah.
Yeah.
So can you talk more specifically about the type of art and music that you make?
Sure. So I do, for my fine arts work, it's mostly printmaking. Lino cut and etching are probably my favorites. I've also done some bookmaking, which I found really, like, meditative and super relaxing. And I think also just, like, the book as a medium gives an extra layer of importance to work. And in that work, I focus on, like, my body specifically, which has been honestly very uncomfortable, especially when you have to do critique in front of the whole class, and it's kind of like you're naked, you know. But interestingly enough, people have been incredibly supportive and really they seem to like be affected by it, which in a classroom full of like mostly cis people is kind of nice. And also my professor Esther Six has been super supportive and she's kind of pushed me to do, she said like, don't stop doing this work, like keep making this work, it's important, which is kind of crazy to hear from a professor who has like such amazing work. So that's been nice. And then my music, I don't know. It's easy to talk about being trans in music because, like poetry, you don't have to be so literal. And with being trans, a lot of the language isn't there yet and the feelings are like so complex that it's hard to use like the right words when you talk about it. And in music, you don't have to use the right words so much. You can like use the instrumental, or you can use like flowery language. So it's easier, I guess.
You told me that you were surprised that people were like resonating with your work. Can you talk about that?
I don't know. I guess when I come up with the ideas and stuff, I don't think about it. That's not true. I was gonna say I don't think about it being viewed, but I do. I don't think about it in a sense of people connecting with it. Like I just think like, oh, maybe this is too much, I shouldn't do this. So I guess when I saw that people were appreciative of my like vulnerability, that was kind of nice, because I was under the expectation that people would be like, oh, she's sharing too much, like back up, you know. But it was kind of the opposite, which was interesting and nice because I want to talk about being trans.
So, you're a senior now.
I am a senior.
And you're in Florida right now. What do you want to do and where do you want to go?
Good question. I really don't know. I'm probably gonna have to move back home and build up some savings, which will be difficult. I have a program, an abroad program that I applied to, and hopefully we'll be able to like partake in, and that's in Ireland, which I'm so excited about because, you know, I'm Irish by my ancestry is Irish, so it feels very special. I wanted to go there my whole life. I used to want to live there, but I don't know now because I did some research about like being trans there, and it's not that great. It's okay. It's probably better than here, but it's similar issues of like the healthcare system doesn't really support it. But yeah, I don't know. There's not really, when I was looking for places, I was like, wow, there's not really any place that's like good for being trans. It's just like, is it bad or not? Which is, that's crazy. Yeah.
But what are your dreams like?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So my dreams are, I want to make a creative label with some of the people I've met here. My friend Kaden Belair, basically the people that are in my band, Josefina de Souza and Kaden Belair. They're just two people that I really like love as people, and also like I make music with them, and I think their art is important. And there's other people too, like Zach Crosby. Her work is amazing. I just want to like keep some of the people that I found here and like support them if I can, because I don't know, when you don't really have like a family that supports you, it's like those people become very important. And I'm not even super close with all of those people, but I love their work and I want to see them succeed. So that's something that's like kind of a pipe dream, but I hope it happens. And also, I want to make I want to make money so I can transition. That's a dream.
Yeah.
Um,
Is
yeah.
there anything that you would like to share with the world?
Hmm. I think just realize that like trans people are like really like amazing, and that sounds really like cliche and like so I don't know. But like I was thinking about this like on a walk with my dog, like talking to myself. But like the amount of effort it takes to like get up every day and like kind of create yourself, and like you analyze yourself so much, and like every day, and like even just living, like it's kind of, because I'm an artist, like I think of it like art, and like um, I think that's why trans people and their art is so important, because they know about like themselves so deeply. So that's why like their art is so meaningful, because it's so personal, and it's um, that that gives it meaning, you know. So I just think like make sure to like look at trans art and support trans art, because it's historically like underfunded. Yeah.
That was very beautiful.
Thanks.
Very well said.